Well, we continue on our way through the book of the New Testament called the Gospel of Matthew, the first of 27 books in the New Testament. We are going to be looking at Matthew chapter 14 and verses 24 to 27. And let me read this portion of scripture from the New Living Translation. Meanwhile, the disciples were in a trouble far away from the land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them, walking on the water. And when the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost!" But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage. I am here." If you are an atheist, you can look at a passage like this as a piece of religious mythology, or worse. It is a type of passage that those critical scholars looking for the authentic Jesus material love to jettison. I mean, what could be more unbelievable than the idea of a person walking on water? Then there are the comics based on this story of Jesus. Think of the opening panel. You have the wide angle view, and you see someone, and it looks like they're walking out on the lake. And by the third panel, as you close in and zoom in, you see that the person is walking on a series of underwater rocks, which are just ever so conveniently below the surface. Then there are the jokes that can be made. I'm Canadian. I walk on water 5 or 6 months a year. It's that cold here. There's lots of ice. This is just one of those passages you either believe or not. The one thing that I find striking in this passage is that the people in the boat thought they were dealing with a ghost. This is interesting because it seems to me if someone goes to all the effort to create a fable about Jesus doing this miraculous deed of walking on the water, you would not be saying that the people in the boat saw a ghost. What would they be doing? They would be bowing down and going, "Oh, Almighty God, you are great and powerful. We love you. We adore you." Not saying it was a ghost. The ghost says to me, you know what? There's something very real and genuine about this story. So when I read this passage, I may have problems comprehending how someone can walk on water. I have no problem that a boatload of people seeing someone walking on water in the middle of the night were thinking that it was Halloween. If I were to write that story from scratch, I would be saying that they bow in adoration, proclaiming his greatness. The point is that the story as a whole rings true. It is not the way people create things. The people in the boat think it's a ghost. What is the key to the story? It is not the presence of Jesus as such. Bear with me on that point. Let me jump forward a few chapters to the first Easter morning. We have a number of women who set out first thing in the morning to the tomb. They arrive. Things were not quite the way they expected them when they got there. They, like the apostles in the boat, are confused about what is going on. Now, remember, people rising from the dead, in most people's estimation, I suspect, happen as often as people walking on water. They, that is the women at the tomb, think that somebody has stolen the body of Jesus. Then Mary Magdalene bumps into a person she thinks is the gardener. She only has to hear him say her name to know it was Jesus. The key to our story of the men in the boat is that they knew what the voice of Jesus was like. They heard it and knew who it was. Look at your life, past, present, or future. You will find yourself in a storm at some point. The longer you live, the more you know that life is not all about smooth sailing. What will be important for us at that time? It will be to hear the voice of Jesus. How was it in a boat on a choppy lake that those men heard the voice of Jesus? It wasn't quiet. It wasn't still. And then you had some guy out on the lake there trying to walk on water and screaming as he sunk like a rock. It was because they learned to hear the voice of Jesus. How was Mary Magdalene able to hear the voice of grief, voice of Jesus in the midst of her grief? She had learned to hear the voice of Jesus. It is not whether we will go through storms or tribulations. It is whether in the midst of the kerfuffle and confusion and concern and all that is stirring up in our life that we are able to hear the voice of God and in particular the voice of Jesus. It is only the voice of Jesus that can bring comfort and consolation. We will only hear it on that day if we learn to listen for that voice daily.